Oh, Lord Jesus, thank you for this day that you give us, God. Thank you for watching over us and protecting us and bringing us together, God. Lord God, watch over us in this time that we come together to do the county's business, Lord. Lord, give us the wisdom that we need, the sight that we need, God, and the ears that we need to hear. Father God, we just thank you for everything that you're doing in this county, God. We thank you for what you're going to do, God, and we just love you and praise you. In Jesus' holy name we pray. Amen.
Salute, pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
First of all, I'd like to thank all the commissioners for being here, Josh Rogers and Commissioner Goins, Commissioner Denny Collins, and Judge. We appreciate you coming. We thank everybody else for coming to together with us, and the banner. He's going to be here watching everything. Gary, Mayor Davis, thank you. Lori, thank you. And Adam, thank you for being here. All right. Let's see. We've called this thing to order. And do we have an approval of the April 5th, 2024 minutes? So moved by Bobby. Do I have a second? Second by Denny. So be. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Now we'll move on to the agenda items. Hey, I reckon, Judge, will you want to come up and present your resolution?
Well, and probably just for, unless anyone has an objection, the easier thing would probably be to give you all the training updates first, just because I figure there'll be more questions on the other. Since we met last, we have sent 6 of our staff over to Colorado for a TBRI training. So now in our building, we have 10 what we call TBRI practitioners, myself, Director Town, and then 8 other employees. With that, we are going to be able to start offering on September the 17th TBRI-based parenting classes. Those are 2 hours a day, 9 weeks in a row. Those are during the day. We have another partner who does those in the evenings from 6 to 8. So we're going to be doing those during the day, I believe Tuesday afternoons, for folks who work third shift or that can't go to the evening classes. So that has been a huge thing. It was a great training for that. We also had a member of detention that went to that too. So we're going to be implementing a new schedule in detention, having the kids up at certain times, in bed at certain times, and having education really throughout the day. Not just the education they get through the city schools, but also education that we'll be bringing to them. Try to work on some things while they're actually present in detention. The other trainings we did, Recovery Court went off to a training in California. They had an amazing time out there. The things they came back telling us about that they had learned were wonderful. On that one, we had Josh Radford, who's the head of our Recovery Court, as well as both of our Recovery Court probation officers. It was a great training, and I may be trying to go next year to see the drug-related issues that they covered. We had gang training just, I believe, a week ago in Nashville. We had 3 folks from detention go, as well as one of our YSOs. And also last week, Director Town, Safe Baby Court Coordinator Athena Pendergrass, as well as our magistrate, went to Texas for the Safe Baby Court training. It was very informative. One of the things we learned there, which is going to carry a lot into what we do, we learned that in every time a child changes placement, they are developmentally delayed by 6 months. 6-month developmental delay for every placement. I had a child in front of me just a few months ago. She's from Hamilton County in state custody. She was over 40 different placements. And so you're now talking about a child with 12 years of developmental delays, according to this statistic. So the Safe Baby Court training is great. Safe Baby Court is off and running. that's the reason the coordinator couldn't be here. She actually has a child and family team meeting right now with DCS and one of the families. Earlier this week, we had our juvenile conference. We had myself and Director Town and 4 of our YSOs or probation officers attend it. It was amazing. One of the best parts about it, ATS The Bridge got to come and speak. They put on a presentation the end of day 1. It was a great presentation. We had a lot of folks come up to us afterwards wanting to get that type of program in their county. We also learned this week that the vaping petitions between this year and last year, we've had a 35% drop in petitions for vapes. 35%. You tell me these programs don't work. They truly do. While we were up there, I'll get to some of that in a minute. We met with a variety of departments and agencies and folks, but we'll cover that here in just a minute. We had CANS training with the staff. We had CPR training. Detention had their handle with care training. And I'm going to Sessions Conference the end of September in Nashville, where we'll cover the civil side. We'll have some juvenile matters, but mainly it'll be the civil side, order protections and things of that sort, as well as the criminal side. We also, believe, did our we had our grant training where basically we cover our Title VI training. So we've had all that since May. So that is the update as it relates to training. So if anyone has any questions on those or any of them. Yes.
Does anybody have any questions on the trainings that they just got through? Any?
Oh, we also do have one. We have one of our probation officers that is about to complete an anger management training, so she'll be able to teach anger management classes to the kids. So that will be a nice
I have
benefit.
one question. How
Sure.
many kids do you have right now in
In
detention?
2, I believe. We've got 2 right now.
Okay.
One is a DCS hold, and one is a child that comes back to court, I believe, on Tuesday.
Okay.
So it's been a very calm summer. We've been very blessed to not have any newsworthy events happen this summer. So,
School started back, so
yeah, we'll see how that goes. We actually met with Dr. Elliott with the city yesterday and covered a lot of things with him, and we've got some good avenues we're pursuing with them. So if no other questions, we can move forward to the 2 resolutions. So let me give you all a little bit of backstory. We met with the AOC, which is the Administrative Office of the Courts, several times over the last year. They were here last summer instituting a new filing system for juvenile court. As part of that, they had to go through and make sure that we had the resolutions in place for the fees and fines that are charged. In that, we discovered that there were 2 specific lines that were not being charged that are in numerous other counties. And the AOC encouraged us to go ahead and implement those fees. It's $25 each. And both of those could be allocated specifically to building or purchasing a building for juvenile court. And so that's the crux of what these resolutions are. It is to raise money to try to get us started on buying or building a new facility for us. I understand that I've provided Chairman Gilbert with the numbers from last year as well as for the first 6 months of this year. And to clarify, this is not just in juvenile court. It's not just in sessions court. This would be in civil sessions, criminal court, chancery court, circuit court. It would be pretty much everything except for traffic tickets. It would not. They're my courts as well as the state courts as well as Judge Collins' court. I talked to Judge Collins earlier this week, I think Tuesday. He's great with it. I talked to Gayla Miller last year before our committee meeting last August, and she was on board with it. So I know Holly Thompson upstairs at Chancery, she loves it. She's pushing for it. But basically the ballpark of it you have to look at court costs as two different types. One is the kind you get on the front end, and the other is the kind that you may get on the back end. For session civil, for circuit court, for chancery court, those are fees you get on the front end. You pay to play, basically. On the other, it's part of the court cost that may go to a family, may go to a defendant, and it may get paid. The reality of it is on a weekly basis, we have families that we tax the cost to the state, which basically means we're not charging a court cost. So we do have discretion to not charge a family a cost. Right now, in my court, the cost is $64. That's it.
So you're saying that if you was to raise this and the family couldn't pay this, that
Right.
you have means to actually
Waive it.
to waive it or provide it, the state to provide it or waive it or something?
It would be waived. And
Okay.
my YSOs routinely will tell me, Judge, they've done what they need to, or they normally find nicer ways to say it than the family can't afford this. Let's just, no one does that. No one wants to
Right.
embarrass somebody.
Absolutely.
So they normally say things such as, Your Honor, I'd be fine if we text this to the state. So that is something we do in a lot of cases, because the reality is a lot of the families that we deal with in the juvenile, I'll call it juvenile criminal side, don't always have the funds to be able to pay for it. So we do, on a regular basis, waive the cost. Now, there are some where, let's say the child definitely did the crime, so to speak, but they've done the things that we've asked them to do, and they've rehabilitated. There still needs to be a little punishment there. And especially if you got a child who's working at Burger King, why not have them understand that there's a pecuniary problem here and have them pay it? So in our court, we definitely waive it at times. When I practice criminal law, a lot of times you'd have an agreement with the state where, maybe the DA doesn't want to prosecute it because the evidence is a little wishy-washy. A lot of times they'll say, we'll dismiss it on payment of cost. And so in that situation, they would be paying the extra $50 as well. Many of those costs are sometimes in the neighborhood of $150, $200, $250. So it would raise that by 50. Those are two of the courts, as well as criminal court, where you may not ever see collection of the money. My estimates from looking at the data from last year and looking at the data from the first of this year, you're probably going to safely be able to collect $400,000 to $500,000 a year if we pass this $50 increase. Okay. Now, just so we're all clear, this is not necessarily tied to a specific building or location or anything. It's just like when I spoke to Mayor Davis last year. The issue is we need to start funding this, because if, with all the problems the juvenile center has, and I have a list that I can go over with you, including plumbing and sewage leaking out, and toilets overflowing, and pumping sewage out of the sinks. God forbid somebody come along and shut down the detention center one day because of some of these issues. And we have to act fast. My understanding, and I was a small child at the time, my understanding of how that jail was built originally in the 80s was a federal judge said the old jail wasn't fit and you had to hurry up and build something. That's what I've been told. I don't know. I wasn't here for that. I don't want to see that situation happen. I want us to have a plan. And if we can start saving some money so that it's that we have a pile of money whenever the day comes that we either identify a building or if we decide to break ground, then I would much rather have $1.5 million set aside somewhere, or $2 million, or $500,000, anything. The other thing, and I'm going to just jump into it. On Monday, I had a meeting with the Commissioner of the Department of Children's Services, Margie Quinn. She and her Executive Director of Legislation. It was the two of us and Senator Lowe's aide. So the four of us sat down and we talked about a variety of options where the Department of Children's Services could try to help us in this quest to get a new space. Because frankly, and I'm not tooting my horn or our horn, Bradley County was mentioned more on Monday and Tuesday at the juvenile conference than any of you could ever imagine. My name was mentioned a ton. Director Town's name was mentioned a ton. And frankly, next August, the Juvenile Convention Conference will be in Chattanooga, and Vicki Town is a co-chairman of that. So we will be putting on a lot of the programs next year that deal with the things that we are doing in Bradley County because people are impressed by the things that we do. The things we do work, such as a 35% drop in vaping. So, in talking to the commissioner, what we settled on after about an hour and a half of brainstorming was trying to come up with a way that we could do what we would call a co-location between the state through DCS and juvenile court, where we effectively try to get state money, which we would find out in this next session. Senator Lowe has agreed to run with whatever we come up with, but basically try to get state dollars to put a DCS partnership together with the court in a building, in a space. So we are trying to get state dollars. My hope is if you all pass this resolution and we can start collecting some of this money, if I can get money from the state from DCS, we can put it with this and whatever our portion may be in purchasing or building or whatever. We now have a head start. We have the funding mechanism in place. And if we need to borrow money and have a debt service, we have some numbers of what to expect. That's the big thing that we're trying to do. When I asked Director Quinn or Commissioner Quinn who I needed to follow up with, she told me that I needed to call her personally. She and I are spearheading this project. This isn't me and some regional director. This isn't me and somebody in Hamilton County. This is the commissioner of the department working with us directly to find a solution. The goal being to keep kids out of foster care. They have a vested interest in it. We do as well. The comment I made to her was, if I have space and I have resources, we have plenty of ideas. We have plenty of people who would partner with us. We just need room. Right now, we have found out that we have been conditionally approved for a $450,000 grant over 3 years that would allow me to hire one more person that could go to campus court and help with services for those families. Because of that, my assistant is now moving into my office, and I'm going to be sharing an office with him. We have other people going into closets. The space that we had previously rented to blended recovery, we can't rent anymore because we are using it. We are out of space in the building. This is not a question of if, it is a question of when. As we were talking in the hallway, we were showing YSO Goins here, where Juvenile used to be. It doesn't take long for us to outgrow a facility. That's why we are looking actively at what options exist, because we are at capacity. We are beyond capacity. You take that, you add it in with the parking issues, the plumbing issues, needing providers under the same roof as us, needing more courtrooms. Right now, Thursday mornings, I need my staff around because we have people we refer to them. But the only space I can have court is upstairs, and it's not ADA accessible. DCS court's going on downstairs. I could come over here, but now I'm going to have to bring some number of staff with me to possibly talk to the families or send the families over to the juvenile center and hope that they don't get lost with the construction or that they actually go. So this is the reason we are looking. Another thing we learned in Nashville is the governor has a faith-based community initiative program that has launched as of Monday. That's the reason my meeting with the commissioner got bumped back 2.5 hours. It is a lot of the things that we have been talking about doing, the things that we're trying to do. Because frankly, and I think you all as men of faith know this, when you have a faith-based initiative, you see better results. That's what the Bush administration showed us with their push of it. We've abandoned it at the federal level over the past decade or so. It worked. And frankly, the governor has had the foresight to understand that it works. And this new program is one that we really need to be a part of. I will tell you that there is a building that we have identified that would be a great fit for us. I've spoken to the mayor, and I understand that we might not, unless we have some intervention from either a grant, the state, or somebody else, we might not be able to pull it off. But that church, it's a church that owns it. We've met with them, talked to them, explained to them what our mission is, what our goal is, where our heart is, basically. And frankly, if we could ever work something out with them, I know that they'd be more interested in selling to us than to a Dick's Sporting Goods or whoever might be interested in it. because frankly, the work that we do changes lives, and that's what's needed. Um, we also, before we left Nashville, we spoke with the AOC again, and I'm not going to get the department right. It's the Mental Health Services. There you go. Vicky's the one that keeps up with my notes here. So we spoke to them, and I'm expecting a call from someone in their funding department. They actually have infrastructure grants that are available. And one of the ideas that we've tossed around is actually having a respite care center on site with us as part of the juvenile center. And so basically what that looks like is you've got a child that is maybe has ran away and is in court. The child says, I'm not going home. The child says, I don't want him to come home. Right now, I have one choice. I have 24 hours to hold them, and that's all. And number two, I either have to send them home to mom and dad, send them home to somebody else who's willing to take them, or give them to the Department of Children's Services. And so now we're having to find placement for a 16-year-old who's running away. If we do this, we could actually have them stay in a respite care center. We could work with, the goal would be to work with Polk County, McMinn County, Monroe County, Meigs County, Ray County, to all use this one facility and effectively have the judges in charge of it. That way, we can keep kids out of foster care, we can keep the system from being overcrowded, and we can start using the Isaiah 117 house for its intended purpose instead of as a temporary placement for children that are too old to be there, frankly. So that is what we've discussed with DCS. Director Town and I are going to reconvene next week and the week after and come up with a harder plan and send it off to Commissioner Quinn for approval. I've spoken to the judges that would be affected by this. Everybody is thrilled with the idea. They're on board with the idea. And frankly, we wish we could do more, but this is about as far as we can get right now. It sounds like we would probably have support from the legislature, but again, I need to get these resolutions passed so that we can start saving money, so that if I do by some miracle get 4 million, 5 million, 8 million, whatever from the state, and we have to kick in something, we've started that process and we know what it looks like. That's what we're asking for. At the end of the day, things are only getting worse. Right now, we are the 88th out of 95 counties as far as juvenile crime goes. That statistic is from right before I started in 2022. Hamilton County is number 87. And with the new transfer statutes and the new laws that they passed this last year, there is a great concern among the judges in this area that the Hamilton County gangs and Hamilton County serious offenders will start looking at other counties, because Hamilton County is going to probably take a harsh approach, and they're going to try to go to other counties where they don't get as much trouble, or so they think. So I'm just trying to give you guys a heads up that this is not an issue that's going to get better. And with the cost, frankly, I think that the cost of building is getting out of hand. I know we had two judges in Davidson and another Middle Tennessee area that are building. I don't want to even tell you the price tags on some of those buildings. So if we could get some state money, find a building that costs $6, $7, $8 million that would work, I think it'd be a better use for the taxpayers than us reacting when the time comes. So I think that's pretty much most of the speech I'd planned for you all. I'm more than happy to take any questions you guys have. I've heard a lot of rumors and rumblings over the past few weeks, but I've not heard from anybody, so I don't really know what questions you guys actually have versus just rumor mill.
Some of the things that I've had brought to me.
Sure.
Number one, they'd say this is a tax.
Okay.
A tax, a levy, a fee are all pretty much the same
Sure.
thing, but you don't pay a property fee.
Sure.
You pay property tax.
Sure.
And that's on everybody that owns property. And this fee is on everybody that commits a crime or either does something wrong, or they're there to see you for doing something wrong.
Sure. So, well, it depends what court you're in. If you are getting divorced, you're going to pay a filing fee to get into the courtroom and get divorced.
Okay.
This increases that amount we're already charging. We're already charging a tax or a fee in those areas. I'll tell you, the biggest if you look at any of the various courts that are going to be paying into this effectively, the money's coming from one of these courts. My Sessions Court is the biggest one as far as the guaranteed money. Okay, we have, I forgot the numbers, 4,000 or 5,000 cases filed a year. 95% of those are from outside the area. 95% of those cases are filed by corporations. They're filed by Discover Bank, American Express, hospitals, debt collectors. That's who's paying. Now, granted, if they sue you, ultimately you may be paying it as well. But if you go see Richard Banks and he does a bankruptcy for you, you're not paying it at all. It depends. The landlords that I deal with every week, they are aware of this. They know that this is possibly coming if you all pass it. I would say that you are right. There is a difference between a property tax where everybody is paying, and if you're a tenant, you're paying it to your landlord, let's be honest. If it's a will tax, if you're driving, you're going to be paying it. So all those are very broad taxes. These are taxes that I think the total number of cases was around 12 to 14,000 total across the county. And of course, of those, you might have 9 or 10,000 that are actually paying it. By the time you talk about ability to collect on the criminal side and whatnot. But if you're talking about 10,000 different cases, that's it. You're talking about a fee. You're not, yes, it is called a tax. Anything you give government, let's be honest, is a tax. This is a specific, I like to say, user fee. And that is what it is. It is a user fee. So, and I would say, here's the other thing I'll let you guys know. I know I've been on the bench 2 years. I don't think any of you guys have had the ability to come and see court. I would encourage you to come on a Tuesday morning or a Thursday afternoon. Heck, come on a Wednesday for civil sessions court. That's a zoo. But come on over and see what it is we do. See what what our tax dollars actually get people. See the benefits. See the fact that this past Thursday I pull into the office about 8:30, and there are people parked up on the mounds on the upper part of the juvenile center. Those mounds, people are parked on those. Now I'm just waiting for someone to step out of the car, and it'd be a further step down than they thought. And now we got a twisted ankle, we got a busted knee, we have something. People lined the roadway up there between us and the SPCA. I don't know how they didn't block the entry to the SPCA. So these are some of the things we're looking at. People are having to wait outside because, candidly, there's not enough room in the lobby for all the people that we have on a normal day. So Tuesday mornings, Wednesday mornings, and Thursday afternoons are very, very crowded over there. Extremely. So to answer your question, yes, it's a tax. Anything we give to government is a tax, but this is a tax that is solely on people who are actually using the services. And frankly, wouldn't most of us rather pay for the services we get instead of the services everybody else uses?
Right.
I mean, I personally would.
Anybody got a question?
Sure. If we have 1,000 cases a year come through on the delinquent and unruly side, I'd probably say around 30% pay it, about a third. And, 2/3 don't pay either because there's just not an ability to pay or there's not an ability to collect. On the sessions side, I would say 99.9% pay. There's occasionally some local person who is going to sue Bob over here because Bob stole his weed eater and he won't give it back and he can't afford to sue him, so he fills out an affidavit for me to waive the fee. And I've waived that, I think, every time that it's come up, or I've cut it down to $25, something more reasonable. Upstairs, to evict somebody, the filing fee is $101. And it's been that since I started practicing 16 years ago. I'm unaware of any significant changes in the filing fees especially the county level in my whole time in office, or not in office, but in practice. So we've not had a change in, probably, not to bring the mayor into it, but since the mayor's been in here, I don't think, and it's not a mayor issue, I'm just saying, you've been in here 24 years or so, a while. I don't think it's been changed since the 90s, candidly. Now, Gayla would be the better one to tell you that, but it's not been in 16. Any change has been a state tax that was maybe $5. So,
Any question? Anybody got any, Mayor, you have anything to add?
I will tell you that,
Any questions?
let's say that we actually do find a place, we buy a building, we build a building, whatever. Once the funds are used for that purpose, we can pivot under this and then use them for maintenance. We can use them for court security. We can use it for a variety of things. And frankly, after the situation up in Monroe County, and I'm sure you all are aware of that, where the basically suicide bomber came up with an AR-15. The only thing that's protecting our court security officers right now is a pane of glass. That's it. And once those guys are gone, it's free reign on the kids and the families until they get to me and, well, take care of business to them. But that's the problem, is we have this is not set up the way it needs to be, and that's not the sheriff's fault. That's not court security's fault. Just the nature of how the building's set up. So we need a better, safer facility. We need a facility that is working. I don't need the Taj Mahal. I just need somewhere where I can go into the bathroom and not have to turn my flashlight on to be able to find the toilet, which happened twice in the past 3 weeks.
So the numbers that you had come up with,
Sure.
I won't say it was 6 month period, wasn't it?
Right.
And the numbers you had to come up with, that if we had have already started charging these fees, can you give us some
It
numbers?
was $240,000.
So in 6 months, 240,000.
Yes. And so that's what I'm looking at. Yes, sir.
Mr. Rogers.
Thank you, Chairman Gilbert. So a little confusion.
Sure.
Okay, so when you first started your speech, you said you had no plans to build, you had no plans to go anywhere, no, you weren't finding anything, and then later on in your speech, you talk about that you have a church and that you're wanting to buy. So when you started out, you were
Sure.
talking about, we're going to levy this tax against everyone who comes to court to be able to save the money up until we find a place that we want to go, find land that we want to build at. But then later on in your comments, you said that you've already spoken with a church and they'd rather sell it to us, Bradley County, than sell it to a Dick's Sporting Goods. So I'm a little confused. Like,
Sure.
do you guys not have a place you
No,
want to buy, or do you have a place you're wanting to buy?
No, we have a place. The problem is, and you know this, being in local politics, I get phone calls from all kinds of people saying a whole lot of things. I've been accused of getting a kickback and, I mean, all sorts of nutty things. We have a place that we want to buy. The problem is, and I called the mayor after I got a call from them one day saying that they had a letter of intent. We have a perfect location that we would love. The problem is we can't afford it right now. Even if you all pass this, and just to use numbers and not take anybody down on a price, if you take the asking price and you do the debt service on it, it comes out to about $780. If this raises 500, I still need to come up with 280,000 pay for. Frankly, I know you guys well enough. You're not going to raise taxes. 1,000.
Well, it seems like that's what you're asking us to do here, is to raise taxes.
I'm asking you to raise
A litigation privilege tax,
yes.
111%. What it is? Is you're asking us to raise
Mhm.
the privilege tax on people who own properties that rent them, and they have to evict someone. Local people who own those properties are going to come in and have to pay 111% more to be
That's
able
not
to evict.
111% more.
It's
They're
not,
paying- they're
because
paying
right now it's $10.28, and now it's going to go up to 60. That would be about
Right
100.
now, the total cost is 101.25. It's
How this
101.25.
resolution reads is that it's currently $10, a $10 fee, and then a 18.25, and you're asking us to go 25, 25, and 10.
And what I'm looking at is the total is 101.25. And we're not raising it. We're applying to two TCA sections that have not been applied. We're adding them in.
We're maxing out.
Yes, we're yes.
Is the total that you can.
Yes,
that
because
this
I would.
tax-
Yes, because I would much rather tell the taxpayers as a whole, instead of spending $70 million for a building or $50 million for a building, that we're taxing, to use that word, $50 per case on folks who are using the system and getting a benefit. Now, Polk County has a landlord-tenant day once a month. We do it we do it once a week, and then if somebody needs a special setting, we hear it.
Where's this building that you're
25th and Keith.
church that's for sale? 7, 8.
It's 8.5 is what they're asking for it.
So a perfect in the middle of town piece of property could be bought, sold, and tax dollars. Property have
Right.
so losing tax dollars, tax base,
Yeah.
property tax, and
Right, but the short-sighted approach is that. The long-range view, however, is if you actually have a space for children in this community to come to where they know that they are safe, where families can come to and know that they can get some help, that is convenient, that it is readily available, that it frankly is in a part of town where kids used to cruise the strip, park their cars there. If that's somewhere that they can actually go to feel safe, and grow up and meet their potential, now they can start adding to the tax base instead of it just being another shopping mall, a church, a whatever it turns into. So yes, I mean, we could do that, and we can collect a little bit here, or we can look at the long range and try to actually change the future of these children. And instead of having a guy who's in and out of jail, so now we're funding another bed at the jail, and instead he's working, maybe creating a business, he's doing a variety of things. It's harder to see that side of things, but the reality of it is when we take a kid who's in recovery court and we see the change that happens in them, you can't quantify that. Every child that goes into state custody costs the state $2.5 million on average over the life of the time they're in state custody. You're talking about a massive change if we can keep these kids at home with parents, educate the parents, help these parents actually raise their kids the right way. And we're not, the only government expenditure we're talking about is buying the building. That's it. There's room in that building where you could actually have service providers. You could have service providers that are providing services to these kids and keeping them taken care of.
how many kids are currently in your center?
There's 2 kids right there now. But see, you guys missed the point on that issue. Those aren't just the kids we're talking about. On a regular Thursday afternoon, we have 35 families that come through. On a Tuesday morning, we'll have 35 or 40 families that come through. We have other kids who come in, other families that come in just for the sole purpose of seeking services. They come in without having a petition. With this grant that we should be getting in the next few days, with it, we'll be servicing families at the schools. We'll be servicing them outside of there. We'll be partnering with more places. So that's what I'm trying to make sure that I get across is it's not just the kids who are locked up. It's not just them. Those are the ones who have to deal with the conditions of plumbing. They're the ones who have to deal with those types of issues. I'm talking about the kids that we try to keep out of being locked up.
So the current 2825 that comes in for the current tax,
Yes.
Where does those funds?
General fund, best I understand.
$10.
Yeah. Everything goes general fund.
And based on this resolution,
The 50 would go toward this person.
the 50 of it would all go to you.
The 50 would all go toward
Jail and the sheriff, $10 still.
Yes. Now, after the building's paid for, you could move that around, do whatever you want to with it. But frankly, this is the need that we have.
Have you talked to the sheriff about this and the other entities?
In passing, it's been mentioned. I mean, we haven't sat down and hammered through it, anything like that. Because honestly, and that's to answer in a way, Commissioner Rogers' point, earlier in the speech, I was trying not to conflate 2 issues because from what I'm hearing from people, there are 2 issues that are being put together. It is buying this building as part of the resolution. It's not. We have to have this in place to do anything, whether it's build, buy, whatever. And so I'm trying not to confuse those issues. If let's say the commission said, hey, this is a bad choice over here, well, that's fine. We still need to pass this so that we can get funding in place to do something. And if that means that, here in 10, 15 years, somebody wants to come along and build a $50, $60 million juvenile center, by all means, go for it. But right now we have to start the funding mechanism somehow, because if we could save up enough that the 500,000 roughly that we're estimating would come in to cover debt service, if we have enough set aside that now that 500 could be averaged out to 550, well, now we can afford maybe a little bit more. Maybe the state money would cover more of it. But
Chairman Gilbert. Actually, I had a couple other questions.
sure.
I understand what you're trying to do. I mean, I get it.
Sure.
But I would venture to say, I mean, the 50 and the 10 is what really gets me. Okay. We've got 2 people in your detention center. Totally understand that you have more people coming to court. You have
Sure.
more people doing those things. We've got a jail over here that's been at max capacity and over max capacity. So we're going to fund a new juvenile place, yet we've got a jail over here that realistically probably could use a new pod, new spacing, whatever it is, but we're going to wrap up 50 of this $60 juvenile, not have that for the other. So I think that's
Sure.
one of my big issues, that
Sure.
in your last sentence of your resolution here, where it talks of where you basically earmark these funds all for juvenile. I guess another one of my issues is that this came through juvenile. There's no other judges here that are discussing it, talking about it. I haven't received a phone call from a judge or anyone, but I've heard from a bunch of attorneys. So, I mean, that's kind of where, I haven't heard from the side who's levying the taxes, but I've heard from attorneys and landlords who are pretty upset that they're going to have to, if they want to evict somebody, they're getting a 111% increase to do that.
Well, and what I'd say to that is, I haven't ever committed a crime, so why should I pay for the jail? And beyond that, if we can play the game of building the jail bigger and bigger. If we don't start at the root of the problem, which is juvenile court, then the jail's just going to keep getting bigger. If we maybe address the issues in juvenile court, then possibly we won't have to do things in years based upon children who don't find themselves there. I mean, when, again, going back to the most recent statistic, and not that adults are being locked up for vaping, but when you have a 35% drop in petitions for vapes that the AOC has pointed out, that means something's working there. So maybe the other things we're doing are working well. So what I would say to that is this: if the sheriff wanted to get funding for this, he could bring a resolution. He could go for that. We're the ones asking. We're the ones bringing it. This is also the reason that I went to the state, and I'm trying to find state dollars to put with it. Because here's the thing: let's say we do the $8.5 million building. Let's just use that number. If 780 is the debt service and 8.5 is the purchase price, and we got $500,000 here, well, what if the state gives us 4? Well, now we only have to cover 4.5 on debt service. Maybe we could split this number between the debt service for that and use the rest to go over toward the jail. That's my point. I'm not going to stop trying to find grants and state funding to pay for it. But unless I have this in place, there's nothing on our end that we're going to have ready to go. Otherwise, it's just me coming in and going, hey guys, you want to raise some property taxes to pay for this issue? Because if I came in here and we needed $10 million to build something or buy something, and I've got 5 on the table, are we really going to walk away from $5 million from the state? And frankly, it's going to be a lot easier for me to be able to get state legislators on board with something when Bradley County has shown a commitment. Davidson County has showed a commitment. They are broken ground on a new facility. Hamilton County is looking at expanding theirs. And I know those are Hamilton and Davidson. But at some point, we've been called the gold standard of juvenile court, and we're doing that with the facilities we have. What could we do if we actually had the facilities we need? What if we did that with the facilities that we could actually provide these services and help these kids? Would Bradley County be better off than 32nd out of 95 counties on the child well-being survey? I think we would. It's despicable to me that we rank 32nd out of 95 counties on child well-being. we need to be in the top 10. I expect nothing less than us being in the top 10 by the end of my first term.
How did you arrive at the $50?
That 25 is the max under each statute.
So was there a consideration, I guess, from the AOC to say, hey, start with 5 or 10?
No, they said just go ahead and do it. They said that you all haven't raised the fee in years.
Sure.
They said you should do it. And again, the $10 it's a convenient figure to use because it sounds terrible. But when you look at 101.25 and 50, yes, it's a 50% increase. I understand that, but it looks a lot better than a 11%.
Or
I mean, I'd be open to anything I can
Sure.
get. Don't get me wrong, but at the same point, I'm trying to look forward.
would you say that, and I guess I don't understand it, but
Sure.
I want to make sure, would you say it's the juvenile center itself, if we're divided out into the detention center,
Mhm.
and then you have office spaces, it sounds like it's an office space and a parking issue. Would you say that's kind of the number one?
And a plumbing issue. The plumbing issue is massive. I mean, we got
Is there a process by which, and Mayor Davis, this may be for you, a work order process? Like if there's a plumbing issue or a lighting issue or anything like that, how does that process work?
we've traditionally fixed most things that we can. Columns comes over routinely and blows out the lines. But you know, the public men's restroom has been at one stall for a year now. It's taped shut, the other one, because it hasn't worked. Just hasn't worked. The clerk's office bathroom, the men's, barely flushes water, and that's been an issue for the 2 years I've been here.
So what does that look like to fix those issues?
I think you're going to have to dig up the pipes that are under concrete under the building, what I've been told. And so the thing that I would point out is, you know, the detention portion of it, while we may have 2 kids in there right now, that doesn't account for the fact that we need 2 courtrooms at least. We need places for these people to go. We have nowhere for attorneys to have a private conversation with clients. They have to go outside away from people, talk. God forbid it's raining or 100 degrees outside. So those are some of the issues we have. Yesterday we had to stop court so that an attorney could talk to his client on Zoom with everybody outside the room because nobody thought to ask Jeremy to go and set up the closet that we have dedicated to that purpose. And so that's some of the issues we have. You know, at the criminal side, there are some meeting rooms off to the side. There's some areas you can go to. It's not as much as it needs to be, but they're available. You don't have that. I mean, the clerk's office is the set of doors there. There's there's a locked door there, and then of course our part where our offices are, it's locked. I mean, for obvious reasons on both. So all you have is the lobby, and then up the stairs you have a training room, which yesterday I was using up there as a courtroom, which we normally do on Thursdays.
Sure.
So there's not a lot of spaces to conduct any sort of business.
Are you looking for any sort of, funding body outside of state or, any sort of private? Is there an opportunity for
Yes.
revenue outside of this?
We have reached out to a variety of folks in the community that care about Cleveland and Bradley County, and basically asked if anyone would be willing to pledge funds to help, much like a YMCA type build out. Obviously, that is a more recent thing. I've not heard anything back yet, but we have had some discussions with some builders that might offer some services. For example, if we got that building, there would need to be built out of courtrooms. I think we could probably get some of that donated, but we have to get there first. So I think we could get there, but again, right now we're at the point of I have a pie in the sky that I'm going to somebody with and said, hey, if we happen to pull this off and they don't think we will, would you be willing to help out? I think that if you all voted for this and showed the county, its residents, its people, that we were behind this and we had a full effort behind it, I think we could probably raise some money there. I think we could get some grants. The grants are independent of what you do. I mean, but it does, I will say this, it does help when I write a grant to be able to say the commission, the county is pitching in by doing this. That's the reason we got the $450,000 grant. I was able to say that we already have certain programs in place, and we're adding to it with this. It just has a better recipe for success.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Potential, I mean, for grants, I mean,
There is.
um,
Infrastructure grants aren't always the easiest from what I'm seeing, but, and I haven't had the conversation yet with the Department of Mental Health yet. I mean, we found out about that on Tuesday at 5, and the person we talked to was going to call the person we need to talk to. So I'm just waiting on that phone call. But the attorney that I was speaking to at Department of Mental Health, Director Town, knows her well. She's come over here for trainings that we've put on. She'll get back to us. It's just, you know how government works.
because I was going to say, you know, when the Pie Center, you know, they tried to get grants
Sure.
on the, they couldn't get they couldn't get grants on the, like, doors and windows.
Sure.
It just had to be stuff, so that's where they,
Well,
and
like,
that's what I was saying, some of your grants is at the brick and mortar, I guess.
oh, and that's what we'd be going for. For example, there's a court security grant that we tried to apply for last year. The contractor took too long getting estimates back to us, so we missed the window. But that's one of those that if we had a new building, I could try to get court security grants to allow the state to pay for certain secure doors and various things like that to help on it. But what I would love to do, my ideal situation is if we get past this issue, is to basically make it a community-wide effort. If we get behind it with some passion, I think the community would rally behind it. I look at Isaiah House. I mean, they came in with a plan. They came in with some excitement, and people jumped on. This community will get behind something that it knows to help. But we have to be talking apples and apples. We can't be talking apples and oranges. This isn't about necessarily just 2 kids. This is about all the kids we serve. We have thousands of kids come through the building every year, and I want our best foot forward on each of them. You know, we're trying to put together a fishing program right now. I mean, we're trying to do all sorts of things to try to reach these kids, but at the end of the day, there's only so much that we can do, and I need resources. That's why I'm going for grants, so that the county doesn't have to pay an employee. We can do it through the grant. So trust me, I will not spend our money that we don't have to. I'm going to do everything as cheap as I can, as good as I can, just like the courtroom.
I think it's a good idea. I mean, you know, if it can happen.
There's one thing that I've also heard.
Sure.
You know, that's been around is, will this take money from the school system?
No.
As far as tax money, as far as money that the county has to pay.
The only thing these funds could go to would be to building projects related to jails and detention centers. So
Right.
it would have to be a maintenance. And Crystal can double check on that,
But just know that the currently how it's set up, $18 of it goes to the county general fund. So it will be taken away from other projects within the general fund.
No, that 18 stays there. This 50 is all that would come to us. It would just be the 50. The 18 stays right where it is. It's just the new money goes toward this allocation. That's it. So we're not taking a dime from anybody else. It's just the 50 goes to this project. And when this project's done, it could be reallocated. The state comes in, and if we do this and the state comes in and gives us a big chunk of money, or Josh Rogers donates $2 million, then that, you know, gets reallocated to something else. So all we have to do is do a resolution for that.
I don't believe that's how this resolution currently reads.
Okay, well, we'll get with the county attorney. She drafted it, so I'll get with her and ask her that. But
Well, I remember hearing Dr. Cash say one time that you leave the 99 to get to 1. Ain't but 2 over there. And I probably was one of them 1. And I'm not the smartest person up here at all. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4 of us up here, and I believe we got 10 other minds that can get together.
sure.
And maybe come up with something. And I'm not for sure exactly how to do this, but I don't want to shut you down, period. And I want to be able for it to be a talk in the community. I don't know how to go any further, but to say, let's take it to the county commission and let the other county commissioners have a voice in it. Because I'm definitely not the smartest one up here about it at all. And I don't know a whole lot. But what little bit I do know, that every kid in Bradley County matters. And if we have an opportunity to actually change a life, I've watched kids that's come out of his court. They was one stood over there the other day when we had when we had a meeting, and he said the prayer and the pledge. And then I met him just as we was going down the other day as I was going into a restaurant, and he grabbed a hold of me. Hey, Commissioner Gilbert, how are you doing? He had grass stains all the way up his legs. And I said, what are you doing, buddy? He said, man, I've been out mowing yards like crazy. He said, I am doing really good. He said, I just want to thank you for what you do. And that right there, that's where the rubber meets the road. And that young man right there, you kept from going to the Justice Center. He was one I know that was heading that way. So, anybody else got anything to say?
Four, 4 and 6. 4 and 6.
Thank you. Wow.
Past that, the only thing I would encourage everybody to do. Oh, you got some? Oh. Sure, come on, please.
I won't take very long. I just wanted to add a couple of things that that you may already know, but just wanted to clarify a few things. I don't know if the committee's aware that we did have a meeting with an engineering firm out of Nashville that has been building juvenile facilities in the past decade or so for other counties, and we did at least pick their brain about a quote to give them an idea of what we needed if we were to build a building. This is before we identified another building. And our quote that we were quoted at the end of that meeting, they took 2 or 3 months to even prepare the quote, was $85 million to build something that's a little bit bigger than what we have now. The one that they recently built for another county that's about the size of the building we have now, which would obviously not be sufficient, was $65 million. So for an $8.5 million building, we're talking about a 10% cost of what it would cost for us to break ground and actually build something. And of course, we're hoping for donations and to raise money, but we're just talking about gross cost. One of the reasons we're so interested in this building is that it's pennies on the dollar for what we would have to do if we had to build something somewhere, even just land acquisition costs and the building itself. It's a huge reduction in cost, whether the county pays for it 10 years from now or we look at $8.5 million now. And if we want to think about, and of course I understand completely that we don't want to cost taxpayers money that they don't need to be paying, but at some point we're going to need a juvenile center, and either DCS or private funds or a combination of taxpayer money is going to pay for it, and this is certainly pennies on the dollar. Other thing I'd like to add, just for some perspective, because I know $8.5 million sounds like a big number, but and I think that helps to put it in perspective. But another thing to put it in perspective, Judge Morgan mentioned, every kid that goes into state custody costs the state over their lifetime between services and housing and whatever it might be, $2.5 million. So if this facility and the programs that we can expand on when we have it can keep 3.4 kids out of state custody, we've made our money back, or the state has made their money back. And of course, I'm expecting the state is going to help us. We're not asking for $8.5 million in reality. I honestly was very skeptical of judges meeting with Commissioner Quinn because I'm skeptical of any success coming out of it, but it turned out to be a very good meeting that I think is going to involve some money. So I just wanted to offer that as a little bit of additional perspective. We really are talking about pennies on the dollar for what we're going to get if we can get it. Thank you.
Remarks, and of course I'll always take questions, but I'll say this. I definitely would love to hear from you guys. I try my best not to bother you all, as you've known by the lack of my name popping up on your cell phone. But I'm willing to talk anytime. I know, Bobby, you've called me. Scotty, we've talked. Guys, I'll talk to anybody at any time about anything. I called Chairman Karai after my meeting with the commissioner and updated him on it. I would much rather hear from you guys than to hear from 15 other people telling me what somebody allegedly said. And the other thing is this: we have court every Tuesday. every Wednesday, every Thursday, and then I have court every Monday and Friday as well, but we have court all the time. Please come and sit in on a Tuesday morning. Come sit in on a Thursday afternoon. See what it is that these people do and see what we're investing in. Now, I'm praying I'm going to be on vacation next week for the first time in 2 years, but after that, please come down, see us, see what it's like. I know Chairman Cry, I saw you over at Judge Randolph's court back in the day quite often. Come see us. I'll waive the rule and let you guys sit in and see what it's like. But that was one thing out of our meeting with Director Elliott yesterday. His wife actually came over to court on a few times on a case, and I think that her being in there and seeing what we do really helped me with that relationship with him. From him being able to hear from her what it is that we actually are about. We are not a pipeline to prison. We are not what many people think. We are totally different than anything you've ever seen before. So please come see us and please call if you have questions.
Anybody else? Any questions?
I would just say to Director Town, she's one of my favorite people, and I've seen that fire from her many, many times. One of the reasons why I love her and her family. It's a wonderful thing to watch the juvenile system operate, and I've seen it. I've been in the courtroom. I've seen it in the schools. I've seen how she works with her people and the kids and the families, and it can be a game changer for families. This is where it gets just sticky because just personally, I think a $50 fee is a hammer. I think it's a big number out of the gate. It's hard when we hear the needs that the juvenile court has. This is me personally. It's hard for me to hear the needs of juvenile court and then receive the phone calls from the community members that say, hey, this is a massive tax on us. I wish and I hope there's a middle ground and an opportunity to work with finance and to work with, the county in terms of a long-range plan or a plan in general. $8.5 million is a lot, even though it's pennies on the dollar. It's a lot of money. I think that the designation of the resolution is something that's difficult for me. I think Commissioner Rogers alluded to that. Having that to be earmarked specifically for juvenile when it's money from other entities, I think is a difficult thing. I do think there are going to be massive other needs in our community along with the juvenile center. What I'd love to see is there an opportunity for us to potentially solve some of your problems? If there's an adjacent property that becomes available, if there's an opportunity to expand parking, if there's an opportunity to work on the building through maintenance, I don't know what it is, or maybe that is finding a building down the road, but funding that is the essential question, and I have concerns with the $50 fee, Judge.
Well, and I would encourage you both, because I believe that it's being misread. This is not taking away from anything that exists presently.
Correct.
This is effectively the only people who could go for this money, as I understand it, is us and the jail. That is it.
That's my
So
interpretation.
I think
That's
the
my
question
interpretation.
for me, if I were in your shoes, would be: do I want to think short term and increase incarceration, or do I want to think long term and try to stop the problem? And I will say, and not getting into politics, but we do have a new DA starting tomorrow, I guess. I don't know what that's going to look like. Will the jail be a little less crowded? Maybe, maybe not. Will it be worse? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I think that this is something worth looking at, because as my assistant, Mr. Absher, said, guys, if we get to the point where we have to do something, I don't want to be the one holding that to the taxpayers. I don't want to be the one going, hey guys, I need half of that even. So we're just trying to be proactive. And here's the thing, to your point, I think that if the commission, and not throwing off the mayor or the commission, but if the mayor and the commission would tell us what the plan is, what a long range plan is, what juvenile looks like in 10 years, I think we could sleep a little better at night. But right now, I come into the same busted bathroom every day. I come into the same problems every day. If I knew where we were going, then maybe that's a little easier to see. I guess my problem is I came back from conference where I talked to a whole lot of judges who'd been there for 20, 30 years. And they say, I remember when I sounded like you, full of fire and full of passion. My legislative body beat me down and I don't have it anymore. And so that's the thing I don't want to have with you guys. I want to work with you all to fix these problems. This is me bringing you a solution. And frankly, I'll be the first one to get on the front page of the paper and tell anybody who has a problem with it, vote me out in 2030. Go for it. Got no problem with it. But this is something I believe that is necessary for the kids of Bradley County. So
Thank you, Judge.
that's just where I am. If that's the hill I die on, so be it.
Thank you, Judge.
So
Chairman Crott, can I ask this question? Regardless of the outcome today from the committee, will it continue on to the full commission?
Excuse me. It will go to the full commission if there is a recommendation from the committee here to send it to the full commission. It would have to go eventually, I would think, but it probably would be a substitute motion to send it to finance. The county is not in a position to be borrowing money at the present time. And so we've got to keep all of that. And that's why it needs to go to finance eventually. But the borrowing of money is an issue that the mayor can address now or later. But with our requirements that are ongoing, it's very difficult. But it would have to go to, this would have to go to the full commission, yes.
So, can we push it off for like a few?
You're the chairman, you can do whatever you like.
Can we push
sir.
it off for a few work sessions and take it to the commission to give folks a chance to talk about it and give people an opportunity to voice their opinion and let us hear from our constituents and let us hear from people around us. He has a serious problem.
And just for the record, I'm not asking anyone to borrow anything. I'm just trying to start a funding mechanism so that if the day comes and when the day comes, then we have something ready to go and in place. Just to clarify.
That's all I know to do. And I recommend that we would you be all right for putting it off for a month to let people talk about it and bring it up
I'd rather do that
in a
than-
work session?
I'd rather do that than just it die off.
When you say
Otherwise-
work session, do you mean a full commission work session or another juvenile committee
full-
meeting?
Commission work session. To where there's more than just four of us sitting here.
I think to put a resolution on the work session, it would have to be
I would not, Chairman Crott brought up something and how to move through this, but I think the juvenile committee, in my understanding, doesn't necessarily have, funding authority, right? And
Right.
that should be a finance decision or at least discussion.
So it can go to the commission and then they can push it off to the finance committee.
I would say, I would argue, and Chairman, it would go finance first, correct?
Can you do that?
You as chairman can make a recommendation that it be sent to the finance committee for consideration.
Would you be good with that?
That's fine. I'd love to come back and speak to them.
Then I'd like to make a recommendation that we push it off to the finance committee and let's give it well, the finance committee would actually tell us when they would have to meet. But let's give it a little bit of time. Sometimes time actually tells a lot.
Oh, sure.
And it, so I make a recommendation that we put it to the finance committee and ask them if they'll put it off for a month or so to let them work through it and see what we can do.
All right. Thank you, guys. We will hear from the finance.
Yeah, to vote on
Uh,
that.
Well, my question is, can the chair make a recommendation?
The chair can't make the recommendation.
That's,
So somebody will have to make that recommendation. Yes, sir. Sorry.
Excuse me for getting involved, but the committee needs to recommend it and vote on it. Somebody in the committee needs to recommend a motion to send it to finance, and y'all get a second. If y'all gonna recommend it, that's fine. If not, don't send it. You gotta have a committee recommend it first and send it to finance with a motion.
Do we have a second? So,
Lori, correct me if I'm wrong. The chairman cannot make a motion, but he can second a motion. Am I correct?
then I'll second the motion. So it's going to go off to the finance committee.
got to vote.
Oh, it's going to be voted on. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no.
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 Now what? We got a tie. The failed motion.
All right. Appreciate it, guys. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you.
Still in.
Woo. Is there any other business? Any communication from the audience? This